Teach them how to interview. And what do I know about interviewing? I've never gone to the real world. And, my interview means giving talks like this and not letting people ask me arbitrary questions, constraining what you do. So, and also, I mean, who knows what's happening in this, uh, when I graduated was a long time ago. So who knows what's happening nowadays? So, so the question I'm trying to answer you is related to your job prospects. So you've suffered through this whole course. You've done the tough second midterm. You've done all 11. You've tried all 11 assignments, and the question is, what meaning did the suffering have? Okay, what have you really achieved? Okay, you didn't drop the course, so there better be some meaning. Okay, even if whether it was worthwhile or not, you better say it was worthwhile. Otherwise, it reflects on your judgment. Okay, so why was the suffering good? You climbed Mount Everest, you got frostbite, and what can you tell people? What can you tell people who might give you a job? That what did I do that was special here that justifies what I did? Yeah.
You learn the model view controller pattern.
You learn the model view controller pattern, even though you asked one little question on it in the exam, right? Okay, let's generalize that. You learn the model view pattern. Is that the main thing? Yeah. Austin? You learned object-oriented programming, but any person who's written Hello World in Java can claim they know object-oriented programming, right? And they do. So you need something that is more general than what Jeremy said, and a little less general than what you said. Sorry? Efficient programming? Sorry? Separation of concerns. Okay? That trumped over efficiency, right? Otherwise, you go and say, yeah, do that try block. That will give you, that does less check. Now, separation of concerns is very good. That's better than object-oriented programming. I mean, that's more specific. But how can you, there's many ways to learn separation of concerns. So what will you say? Okay, I had this token that was different from my scanner. That gets to be too detailed. So something, again, that's more general than what Jeremy said and more specific than what you said. Yeah?
Well, we learned about interfaces.
Interfaces?
How they interact with classes and how
Okay.
to...
Yeah, you learn interfaces. And people are going to be impressed somewhat by that, but any person who's done any GUI programming has had to write an action listener, and they know interfaces.
We've also combined many atomic classes, many different functions in one main, more complex program.
So you just had separation of concerns, modularity. I saw another hand up. Andrew?
Abstraction.
But abstraction, good. Object-oriented programming, but that's almost too much of a motherhood. And apple pie kind of thing. It's you need to be a little more specific. And yeah. Modularity, again, that's a little general. I like Jeremy's answer. Yeah. Okay, recursive distance parsing. That's not every undergrad student who graduates knows recursive distance parsing. That's why I taught you that. Okay, that's because that's not in compilers, but that's not a required course. So that's good. That you want to go and brag about. What else do you want to brag about? Model view controller, recursive descent. I've got some names that people will understand. Design patterns. I mean, we had more than one design pattern. So I'm running out of time, so let me just tell you. So you can't say Java. Okay, if you did 110, you already had Java. Okay, and one of my ex-401 students came to me and said, people put Java on their resumes, and Python, that means nothing to us, because it could mean you've written Hello World in that. So you really need to go be more specific. And, there's Java++. If you had done C, you could have said that. Okay, firstly, you guys did an assignment every week, more or less. Okay? That means something, that you somehow went and allocated your time well enough. And if you look at the way assignments were submitted, this number kept going down. So just the fact that you survived, and no matter what you did, the fact you did what you were told to do for 11 weeks means that, that's something you should be proud of. Because a lot of the students who are behind right now is just because they either were taking a heavy load or just couldn't allocate their time well enough. So time allocation is important. But, we can have an assignment every day if we had a quiz. You guys did large, you were talking about modularity. You were all going towards this thing. You want to quantify that and say, look, I did so many lines of code. Is that going to impress people? By the number of lines of code you wrote? So what will impress people? Number of independent types you create. You created, not what you used. You can always go to the web and use zillions of classes in one program. But you wrote all these classes, and that's what I asked you when I first started this course. What is the biggest program you've written in terms of number of classes? So please go count this and say, I wrote a program that has 40 classes and interface. And there you can go and say 40 classes and interfaces, and the interface is a cheap way to get new type, right? So, so now you'll bless me for having focused, emphasized interfaces. Okay, so do count them, please, and write down that. What about the project? Can you say something about the project? And I did this project. I mean, you don't want to go and tell them, please go look at the video or look at my video and see exactly what it is. How are you going to abstract this out, Zach?
I mean, you did a project with user input, which not everyone has.
With user input. Yeah. Sorry? Okay, so then we get to concepts there, right? So we had threads here.
We wrote our own parser.
You wrote your parser, so recursive distance parsing. Please advertise that. One of my students, she went for an internship to Microsoft, and she said, you know what they asked me? They asked me how to do points, Cartesian point, and they asked me how to do recursive distance parsing. And she got the job. And she had complained throughout the course. And so she just changed and told everybody that this was, that was, but that was what she got lucked out with. I'm not saying that you all will luck out with that. I told you guys this early, that this is somewhat like Alice. And in Alice, what you do, this is something I got from Georgia Tech professor. You create pictures like this, like the ones we had, and you write code that goes and makes those avatars do things. Like you can make the rabbits jump one at a time or together. And you press buttons to do so. And lots of people, before they do 110, program in Alice. Can you see how Alice is related to your project? Do you create avatars? Do you make them go? Do you make the avatars do actions together or separately? Threads? Do you have a language to go and create threads? So you have essentially not programmed in Alice, you have developed an Alice-like environment. That's a strong statement. And it's not by accident. When I was trying to figure out what I should do in projects, I was trying to think of a formula. And this formula I struck last year, that maybe this is what we should be doing. Because students were doing that. I would tell them to just create the virtual environment, and they didn't want to go and enter the commands, so they had their own interpreter where they were going and sequencing commands also. So I said, hey, just make that part of the. And what did you achieve? Please go and look at this slide before you go for your interviews. You did some advanced algorithms. You did scanning. That was not easy. You did recursive parsing. You understood some advanced Java features that you might not know if you didn't take this class. Threads. So there are students in my grad class who don't know how threads synchronize, or who don't even really know how threads work, because we don't require them in undergrad classes. Okay, so that's a big deal. And exception handling, the depth to which we went. And then you learned complex data structures, and you learned these design patterns, because one of my students went for an interview. He was a physics major. He was getting a job. And they said, oh, you did model view controller. They were impressed by that. What other design patterns did you know? And this guy got like the 4th best grade in my class. And he just blanked out. And he said, none. And then he came to me and I said, you did all these design patterns. And so it's easy to forget things. I write an exam a year ago and I don't know what happened there. I mean, that's how you retain your sanity, I think. But if you want, I have a little link from my webpage. And if you want to just quickly brush up on what design patterns you learned or might have learned, this was written in 2005, and I was a little bit more ambitious about design patterns. Go look at that. Okay? And in terms of, I'll just take 30 seconds more. The very fact that you guys, interacted through PIAZZA, the fact that you didn't just come and said, here's my code, tell me how it works, why it doesn't work, and you went and formulated a question, and others went and answered that question in English, that's a big deal, by the way. So I was really happy to see the level of discourse on PIAZZA. And that's something you can be proud of. I don't know whether the interviewers will be impressed by that or not, but I would be. And, I have some in your, this is somewhat orthogonal, but you also saw various ways of getting help, and you saw ways of learning material. And, today there's a big debate on what education should be like. Should you pay all these thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, and come to class, and some of you don't, and you guys do, and you can really, and you may or may not think it's worthwhile. And today there's this big debate, but you have seen this multimodal education system here, that you've got the recorded slides, we even have YouTube videos now, you have quizzes. So which is the right way to learn? And at least in a party, you can talk with some confidence because you face these. But maybe you guys are going to at some point decide what the right way of education is. And I think that maybe this experience has helped you figure out where we should go. And people are very confused right now. And so, maybe you can help remove the confusion. Okay, have a good rest of the semester. And please do go and point out any problems with your scores that we report to you.